So we have these two equations. I've kind of cut out the instructions, but our goal is to solve them by graphing, I believe. We're just supposed to find where they cross. So what you need to do is take each equation and graph it separately. So this first equation that I have underlined, the y-intercept is the number all by itself, so that means it's going to cross at -7 on the y-axis. So here's my dot at -7. And then the slope is 2. And this is the part where students usually struggle. The slope is the number attached to x, and it's probably best to think about it in terms of a fraction. If it's just a plain old number and it's not a fraction, you can turn it into a fraction by putting a 1 underneath. And the slope tells you the rise over the run. So I'm going to rise 2 places from this point, and then I'm going to run, it's kind of bad words there. I'm going to go to the right 1 place. So up 2 to the right 1. Up 2 and to the right 1. And there's my next dot. And so using MyMathLab, that's enough to plot those 2 points, because you just have to put those 2 numbers in there. And then we have y equals -x plus 2. It's got a y-intercept of +2. And then the slope, there's no number written in front, so that's a -1. And again, that's not a fraction, so let's make it a fraction by putting a 1 underneath. And look, if it's negative in the rise part, that means instead of going up 1, we need to go down 1. And then this is a +1 in the bottom, so it means down 1 to the right 1. So there's 2 dots for our graph. Okay, so if you use MyMathLab software, it'll tell you exactly where they cross, but we'll get to that in just a second. The slope is the biggest thing I see an issue with. Some students see as -1, they say, oh, I know negative means going down and to the left. That's actually 2 negatives. If you go down 1 and to the left 1, then that's the equivalent of a +1 slope, because a negative divided by a negative would be a positive, right? So if it's a negative sign, and just keep in mind, when you simplify your slope, it's supposed to turn back into what you have here. And so this means down 1 and to the right 1, because this one's positive. Okay, so that's a rough sketch of what those 2 graphs should be. So I graph that by just doing it by eye. If you use the software, it'll show you pretty clearly where they cross. Let me figure out where they cross real quick. This is something you're going to do in the next week of the course. You set them equal to each other. You replace this with this, and it's 9 equals 3x. So the x-coordinate is going to be 3, and the y-coordinate is going to be -1. So that is what you should see in the graphing software if you had these equations. And when they say substitute the values back in, that means plug in where they cross. If you plug 3 in for x and -1 in for y, you're going to get a true statement. Same thing if you plug in 3 in for x and -1 for y over here. Yes or true, it should be the answer there. The place where they cross is a solution to both the red equation and the black equation there. So 3, -1 is a solution to both this equation and this equation.